I've been riding bikes for 9 years, maybe even 10. I'm not a bike nut. I'm not, I just like riding bikes. They're convenient, they're fun. I've had a few in my time. Started sensible on 600, then up to 1000 touring bike, and now on my CB1000R. But I've always had a bit of I say always, the last couple of years, a bit of a crush on the Ducati 899 Panigale. So I thought, let's take it out for a test ride, which is what I did today. My friends were test riding up at BMW in Welwyn, so I picked this up from Metropolis in Barnet and went up to meet them there. It's a gorgeous looking bike. I don't think anyone would disagree. It certainly sounds pretty amazing too. But how would it ride, I wondered? Well, I slapped on my GoPro and I took it for a ride. So I'll just lower the volume of the bike for a little while, although it's gorgeous to listen to. I'll just talk a little bit through the instrument panel that you see in front of you. The bigger number is obviously the speedo. The rev counter goes around over the top, and you've got a gear selection showing on the left hand side. I'm in second gear at this point, obviously. Underneath the gear selection, you can change with a button on the left handlebar. I'll show you those shortly. The right hand side shows you, the middle, sorry, shows you I think it's water temperature, and the right hand side shows you the air temperature. So on the left handlebar, you've got the indicator switch. Obviously, you don't really have to press it very far. Sometimes I was wondering if I'd actually indicated it. It looks to move quite in the video, but didn't feel like it when I was riding. And the other sort of upward slider changes what's displayed in the bottom left corner, be it sort of trip mileage, total mileage, the time, the length of time you've been riding, all sorts of different information can be scrolled through on the dashboard there. So there were a couple of things that Mike told me about from Metropolis in Barnet. One was the quick shifter, which you may have noticed in that stretch there. You don't have to use the clutch, you just tap your foot up on the gear changer and it changes up. And actually, very quickly, I got to like that a lot. You do have to use the clutch to change down though, but I can live with that. Banging it up through the gears as you accelerate away really is quite good fun. The other thing he mentioned to me about was the different modes. So you get race mode, sport mode and wet mode. And pretty much each time you lessen the power a little bit, you change some of the ABS settings apparently. I thought the suspension was changing, but it wasn't. It's the same all the way through. And I guess this is where I for a little while I was worried I wasn't enjoying the bike. I had it in race mode, so I rode up to Welwyn in sports mode. Fine, everything's okay. Sports bikes are a different position for me, so I was aware that I was going to have a lot of weight on my wrists, but I have to deal with that. And then when we were out to this ride, in fact, I think, I can see on the dashboard, it's in race mode, which is just quite violent almost. It doesn't have as much torque as my CB1000R, but it seems to just jerk me about on the seat. You can't actually see on the video, but the brakes were pretty super sharp, so accelerating, and also the engine braking was pretty heavy, so as I rolled off, the amount of time I squashed my testicles on the tank as I rolled off the power was becoming a little uncomfortable. But generally it just wasn't that nice of a ride. Later on I switched it back to sports mode and realised actually that's where the fun's at, that's where it's just a more comfortable ride. So strangely, I just assumed I want as much power as possible, please. But actually, that for me, that wasn't the nicer ride. To summarise then, I'll go through the things that I wasn't so keen on first of all. Race mode, I think I mentioned, was just a little bit too violent for my liking. I'm sure it should be great if I were to take it on the track, but just for on the roads, probably wouldn't use very often. I didn't like the amount of engine braking I would get. I think I mentioned already my poor testicles, so that took a bit of getting used to. At this point, I'm not a big fan of the sports bike riding position, but I guess I would get used to it. At the same time, my knees, there wasn't like a smooth surface. I did pinch with my knees to try and take the weight off my wrists. There wasn't a smooth surface. I could feel different things kind of almost sticking into my knee, so seemed a little bit of a design fault to me. I missed the low end torque that my CB1000R has, and I couldn't see that there was actually a fuel gauge. There was a petrol light that would come on, but I couldn't actually tell, did I have half a tank, did I have a quarter of a tank? Probably I was just missing it, but I couldn't see it. So moving on to the things that I did like. I love the looks of the bike, the best looking bike probably that there is. I love the sound of it as well, sounded great, especially at speed. Good power, although low down in the revs it can't match my CB1000R as I mentioned. It does feel good at speed and at higher revs. Great brakes, caught myself out a few times getting more than I expected when I took a handful. I guess the wet mode could be really handy with the weather we get in the UK, and I do like that you've got the options of race, sports and wet. Nothing like that on bikes I've ridden before. It did feel very good around the corners. Quite often I was thinking, right, let me get a decent position, hang my knee a little bit, and actually it just easily cruised around the corners. Although I mentioned I'm not a fan of the riding position, it was more comfortable than I thought it would be. I've ridden other sports bikes that have made my hips hurt because I'm bunched up so much, but didn't happen on this, and I would expect that my wrists would get used to the riding position in time. I did like the different options on the dashboard that could be scrolled through using my left thumb. That was good, and I loved the quick shifter. Oh my god, I perhaps need to look and see if that's possible getting fitted to my bike. So all in all, tough decision. I mean, at the minute I'm sticking with my bike, my CB1000R, but the 8.9 is still on the list. It's still a thought for the future, perhaps. There you go, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments down below.